Hi guys, this is Yellowtail Gaming, and the Division beta just finished up, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about my impressions, general thoughts, that kind of thing about the game. Start off with, in the background, I've got B-roll of the cleaner mission. It's one of the two story missions you get in the beta. You are rescuing your tech specialist, Paul Rhodes, from the cleaners. And that's going to lead on to my first topic, the four factions in the game. Only 3 of them were in the beta. You have the Rioters, the Rikers, the Cleaners, and the Last Man Battalion. And they're each their own faction with a unique way of how to fight them, and they are all really cool and well detailed. Starting with the Rioters are they're just rioters. They're a bunch of people who got together, found some guns, thought they were stronger than the law, and now they're trying to just take everything they want. Then you've got the Rikers, who are a group of criminals escaped from Rikers Island jail, and they really don't want to go back to jail, as it is fairly common sense that if you break out, the city's in chaos, you might not want to go back. Then you have the Cleaners. That's who I'm fighting in this video, as I've already stated. The Cleaners are a group. They kind of act like trash men. They're dressed like trash men. They believe what they're doing is right. They're trying to burn the infection out of the city. They burn the bodies of the dead. They burn living people to death. They light buildings on fire that are contaminated. Although misguided, they are trying to clean the city, and they are trying to protect the city. And then the one battalion, the Last Man Battalion, was not in the beta, but I think it's the coolest group. The Last Man Battalion is a private military company. I believe it was hired by the richer residents of New York to protect themselves, but they were stranded in the city and are now trying to take control of the city to protect and serve their own kind of order. Like a National Guard force, except once again their view on protecting people is a little misguided. Everybody that plays this game wants to compare it to Destiny, or everybody that hasn't played the game wants to compare it to Destiny. They're both loot-based MMORPG shooters, and that's where the similarities stop. This is a very realistic third-person experience, whereas Destiny is a sci-fi fantasy first-person experience. The experience you have in the games is so different. In Destiny, it's a lot quicker, it's a lot snappier, it's first-person experience. First-person games tend to be a lot faster pace than their third-person equivalents. So this game is very slow, very methodical. You really want to take your time to pick off what enemies you want, whereas in Destiny, it's guns-ho, clear them out. That being said, there are a handful of similarities you can find, namely being a loot-based MMORPG. Even if Destiny doesn't want to be an MMO, they are an MMO. You can have in Destiny, obviously, most people have played Destiny or at least heard about it. It's one of the most popular games around right now. If you haven't, you don't know anything about it, please check out a couple of my videos. I have a number of videos on Destiny. In Destiny, there are 3 classes, each with their own 3 subclasses, all with their own unique abilities. In the Division, there's only one class, Agent. You're an agent. All abilities are tiered under the agent, and you can get any of them. There's no holding you back from collecting all the abilities and having them all. So one person can effectively handle the task of an entire team, which is a very... It's good, I guess. When you're playing alone, you can fill in gaps in what a fire team would be, in what a Squad would be you can fill gaps in yourself just by being able to pick up the items, the skills that you need. But conversely, there are so many skills that it's hard to get a solo and a group feeling. You feel so strange when doing it because there are so many useful abilities and you can't really specialize yourself to make use of them very well. Whereas if you have a fire team, a squad into the division, you can have one guy be a healer, one guy be offense, one guy be support. If you're trying to cover all of those, you can't cover any of them. In Destiny, by forcing you to pick one, you can be a hunter, which is a very offensive class, or you can be the Titan, which is a very defensive class, or the Warlock, which is a very support-based class. By forcing you to pick one of those, it really does narrow your options of what you can do. And then results in a bit easier strategy experience. Let's move on to things that I really, really liked about The Division, though. Enough comparing it to Destiny. My favorite thing about The Division is the Dark Zone. Granted, this was just the beta. It might change in the future. But at the current time, the Dark Zone is The Division. It is uncomparable to any other piece of the game. You go into the Dark Zone alone, you're feeling the pressure. You see a group of 2 or 3 people rolling around, you see a group of 4 people rolling around, you do everything you can to get out of their way, because God help you if you look at them funny and they don't like it. They will roll over you in a second. But there are tons of NPCs in there as well. Really high level enemies with a lot of good loot. So it pays to go into the Dark Zone even if you do it alone like I do. It's this tense action-fueled area that doesn't equate to anywhere else in the game, at least not yet. The extraction is so much fun. You head to a helipad, you shoot a flare up and call in a helicopter, and this signals everybody else in your instance of the Dark Zone, your server of the Dark Zone, that you've got loot and you're going to be here. Most of the time, people are pretty nice about it. They'll show up. Everybody cowers in their own corners, not wanting to do anything wrong. But then that group of rogues will show up. Rogue is the designation you get if you're a player killer. That group of rogues will show up. And that extraction site becomes a war zone instantaneously. There's nothing worse than going to extract something and getting hit in the head with a sniper round and losing all of your loot. Another thing I like about The Division is the NPCs. As I already stated, I really like the NPCs. The factions are so well thought out. They all have their unique identities. You can tell them apart right away. You never get confused as to who you're fighting. They all have different play styles. The cleaners are a very close combat type of group. They have flamethrowers and sledgehammers and Molotovs, and they try to rush up to you to get those really high damage items of theirs up on top of you. Whereas the Rioters, the other main group from the beta, they're a lot more disorganized. They a lot of submachine guns and handguns. They're very quick. They rush you. They also rush you, but not trying to get too close. They'll push your flanks and just try to get smoke bombs on you so you can't see them moving around. They're very scattered. Very different feelings, and it's really fun dealing with the different situations. Granted, you get to a certain point and you're so powerful you can just roll over them like they're not even there, like you can see me doing in this video. For all the things I do like about the Division, granted these are preliminary thoughts, this is a beta, it could get better in the full game. My biggest issue with it, my biggest dislike about the game is it's empty. Outside of the Dark Zone, the game feels really, really empty. You clear out your side missions, you clear out your story missions, and then there's really nothing to do outside the Dark Zone. There's nobody around. You've killed off all the major strongholds of people, and now you might find a pair of looters or rioters trying to get a bunch of stuff off of a corpse. You might find some cleaners walking around in the subways. But for the most part, it's a lot of running without much happening. Everybody in the game runs away from you because you have guns, so there's not much interaction with the civilians. And it really feels empty. It might just be that's the atmosphere they wanted to go with. I mean, you can see in this video, this subway that I'm fighting through is used as a mass grave. There are millions of dead people in New York at the time of this game. So it could be that they just wanted you to feel how empty the city is without its inhabitants. If that's the feeling they're going for, I really, really enjoy the feeling. However, for the style of game they built, the loot-based shooter, it's empty. And empty is not good. Other things I don't like, as great as the Dark Zone is, I also don't like the Dark Zone. Because if you don't have it, you're punished for playing the Dark Zone by yourself. As I said, going in there alone is incredibly tense. You have to be afraid of everybody. And the enemies in there are so powerful, it would take me 4 or 5 lives to clear 5 or 6 enemies in the Dark Zone, just because they would overwhelm me before I could bring any of them down. I'd have to respawn, go back there, and whittle them down a little more. Luckily enough, it's not too often that their health bar is completely reset, so you can die and come back, and most of the time they're still fairly weak. But it's that repetition that's... You're not strong enough. You're never quite up to par if you don't have that group, because you can't cover yourself. You don't have the offensive and defensive abilities that a group would bring. You can't go in and find all your enemies and then, pick them apart one by one, because you have to focus on not dying yourself. If you have a group, you can push the sides and whatnot, because you're not as afraid of dying, because it's not a big penalty. Somebody can just come over and heal you. Things I kind of hope for that the Division, I'm an idiot, that the Division will do in the future, I'm really hoping for, I'm hoping they populate the city a bit more. I already said that. For the end game, if they do something like a raid, I don't have an image of it, but on the PC, I don't have an image of it because I play on the PS4. On the PC, when you go into your menu, you can find a bunch of sliders to customize your HUD. There isn't one on the PS4, which is why I can't get an image of what I'm going to be talking about. The sliders can customize your HUD however you want. And when you're playing the game, there is a set of squad stats in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. It gives you the additional members of your squad, as well as their health, and I believe their skill statuses. They're like recharge timers. When you go to move that around, there is another 5-slot box that you can find directly above that, about halfway up the screen. The Ubisoft has confirmed that there's going to be Group Plus activities, which are going to be 8-person activities, but that doesn't fill in that whole box. That gives you plus your 3 teammates plus 4 more, leaving an open slot in that box. What I'm hoping happens with that, I believe they're going to have raids. I can't confirm that. I'm hoping that they do it like World of Warcraft does. In World of Warcraft, you have, I believe it's 6 squads of 5 people that go in to do a raid. That you get sent into a dungeon. The squads kind of manage themselves. Everybody works together without working together. And I hope they kind of carry that mechanic over into the Division. It'd be like Alpha through Eagle Squad. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Eagle. Maybe Foxtrot if your squad isn't on that list. If they break it up like that, they could do some really cool raid-type stuff in this game. Such as you have to assault a last-man battalion base. So you're pushing through the base, say you're in a Bravo squad, you're pushing through the base, you got to take out the power. You got to take the power out because Charlie squad has to push through a courtyard that has automated sentry turrets. You know, Charlie, Echo, Foxtrot, they have to push through this courtyard to get to the other side. Until you can get the power off, these sentry turrets will be up, shredding them, just ripping them to pieces. Say they get through there, now you have to get to a helipad, and Charlie squad, because they were able to get into the building, is up on the roof, and they are providing sniper support while you push to a helipad. I think there'd be some really cool chances to do that kind of stuff if they split it up in these big squads for raids. If they don't have a raid type mechanic for the end game, it's going to be empty. It's going to feel like Destiny does right now. There's not going to be anything to do once you hit that cap. You can go into the Dark Zone, but from my understanding, once you hit level 30, the Dark Zone is only going to be populated by level 30s. So, I mean, you hit that level cap, you go in there, and there's going to be a lot of really high-level stuff you can pick up. But at the same time, you're fighting people as strong as yourself, and, you know, you might be a 1 or 2 man squad, and now you're fighting 4-man squads that have the experience and level that you do, and they're more powerful, and it'd be a very unforgiving experience, and I don't think that would be a lot of fun like Dark Souls kind of unforgiving is. There's a lot of things about this game that I am a fan of. There's a lot of things that make me really hesitant about this game as well. The Dark Zone is so much fun, so incredibly fun, if you can handle yourself in the Dark Zone. If you can't do that, I've heard that it's a very, very unhappy place to be. But there are so many things that make me apprehensive. The seeming lack of content. Even when you're looking at the skill tree, I think there's only 15 skills plus a signature skill, and there's 40 perks, and the perks are just kind of passive bonuses that you unlock as you proceed through the story. There's nothing inside of the city that really screams out action and excitement except for the Dark Zone. If they rely entirely on the Dark Zone, this game will not be a success like they want it to be. Well, guys, that was my current thoughts on the Division based on what is in the beta. If you have any other questions for me, please drop a comment below. I'd be happy to answer them. I spent plenty of time playing it, so I can give you some pretty solid answers. And as always, like and subscribe down below. And this has been Nick K from Yellowtail Gaming. Thank you, and goodbye.